poetry of immigrants. We don't have a logo up there, but we have the presence of Emerson. So that's part of our decor today. But we're all immigrants. We were just talking about it. And it's essential to honor the voices of immigrants. We're going to do some today, but we're going to start off thinking about Cuba. And before that, we've been discussing some themes for today. It is April. It's April Fools. We'll have a little fun in the second half, I hope. And we'll talk about life and death, which seems to be on my mind. I woke up this morning and Emily Dickinson floated into my head. Quote, "My life closed twice before its close. It yet remains to see if immortality unveil a third event to me. So huge, so hopeless to conceive as these that twice befell. Parting's all we know of heaven and all we need of hell." I wonder if Emily had two losses during her life. I got a call this morning that my favorite cousin had passed away last night, Dottie, and the service will be Sunday. And before her, she lost her son at 30 and her husband a couple of years ago. Quote, "April is the cruelest month." T.S. Eliot, The Wasteland. Why is it cruel? Birds are singing, flowers are popping, the weather's warming up. How could April be cruel? Well, Chaucer. "One that Aprila with his shores suta, the drought of March hath perished to the ruta." So the rains come in April, kicking off the pilgrimage to Canterbury. The rains are a spiritual awakening. Water is a symbol of spirit. So we'll cover April, life and death. Dante, "I never knew that death had undone so many." That's in the fourth circle of the Inferno. They're all dead. And T.S. Eliot echoing so many hundreds of years later. "I never knew that death had undone so many." They're at 5 o'clock, whistle blows, they're coming out of the factory. The city, compared with Dante's Inferno, the city is hell. What an analog. So we'll start with our Cuban poet who came. He's not typically considered an immigrant. He's a poet, international renown. Federico Garcia Lorca. And after New York, he went to Cuba. I'd like to introduce my guests. On my right, Gemma Mathewson from Guilford. And on my left, Patrick Joninas.
Close. Close.
Joninas.
Joninas.
There you go.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a little spacey with that Emily floating through my head this morning. Sorry.
It's all right. It's all right.
Gemma's my co-host generally, and Patrick's a special guest today, also co-producer. He's a local poet, and he shows up at the Poetry Institute, so we've become friends. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, great
Thanks
to
for
have
having
you.
me.
Great. So, Gemma, let's take a look at the city in 1929. Federico gets off the boat and comes to New York after an agrarian life and bucolic existence, really, in Granada. And he's walking down Fifth Avenue and he sees two men jump off the high parapet. Oh my God. And that was his introduction. That's, of course, the stock market crash of October 1929. He stayed about 7 months. He was a grad student at Columbia. and a performer and a general first-class artist. So, how about a few lines from Lorca's take on New York City, what it felt like?
Okay. This is called City That Does Not Sleep, Night Song of Brooklyn Bridge. In the sky, there is nobody asleep. Nobody, nobody. Nobody is asleep. The creatures of the moon sniff and prowl about their cabins. The living iguanas will come to bite the men who do not dream, and the man who rushes out with his spirit broken will meet on the street corner the unbelievable alligator quiet beneath the tender protest of the stars. Nobody is asleep on earth. Nobody, nobody, nobody is asleep. In the graveyard far off, there is a corpse who has moaned for 3 years because of a dry countryside in his knee. And that boy they buried this morning cried so much it was necessary to call out the dogs to keep him quiet. Life is not a dream. Careful, careful, careful. We fall down the stairs in order to eat the moist earth, or we climb to the knife edge of the snow with the voices of the dead dahlias. But forgetting does not exist. Dreams do not exist. Flesh exists. Kisses tie our mouths in a thicket of new veins, and whoever his pains will feel that pain forever, and whoever is afraid of death will carry it on his shoulders.
Wow. Duende is a philosophy that he lived, which is the awareness of the presence of death in all artistic creation. And that struck me at first. It's counterintuitive to me. Life, vibrancy, which he had fully in overflowing complement, and yet it's the presence of the death's head. I noticed that in Europe too, in my travels on the bridges, in Switzerland especially. Everywhere there's the death's head. What an interesting take on New York City, because the imagery to me seems so disparate. I have trouble with his surrealism, linking image to image. Now it's all about association in his unconscious, but some of the images sing. Let's try a few more lines, which is more Federico. He was born near Granada, and he was born to a prosperous farm owner and a pianist. Prominent 20th century Spanish poet and dramatist Federico Garcia Lorca studied law at the University of Granada before relocating to Madrid in 1919 to focus on his writing. In Madrid, he joined a group of avant-garde artists that included Salvador Dalí, Luis Buñuel. The group, collectively known as the Generation of 27, introduced Lorca to surrealism, a movement that would greatly influence his writing. He had a very close relationship with Salvador Dalí. They were colleagues and co-workers.
I can see that.
Yeah. And Lorca fell head over heels in love with Salvador. And then at some point, the collaboration unwound because Dalí went, whoa, hold your horses, buddy. And he actually invited him down to Cadac, where on the coast of Spain, Dalí's family was. And then Dalí got married, and it was like the first failed love affair. New York. Beneath all the statistics, there's a drop of a duck's blood. Beneath all the columns, there's a drop of a sailor's blood. Beneath all the totals, a river of warm blood, a river that goes singing past the bedrooms of the suburbs. And the river is silver, cement, or wind in the lying daybreak of New York. The mountains exist, I know that, and the lenses ground for wisdom, I know that, but I have not come to see the sky. I've come to see the stormy blood, the blood that sweeps the machines to the waterfalls, and the spirit on to the cobra's tongue. Every day they kill in New York ducks, 4 million, pigs, 5 million, pigeons, 2,000 for the enjoyment of dying men, cows, 1 million, lambs, 1 million, roosters, 2 million, who turn the sky to small splinters. You may as well sob filing a razor blade or assassinate dogs in the hallucinated fox hunts as to try to stop, in the dawnlight, the endless trains carrying milk, the endless trains carrying blood, and the trains carrying roses in chains. Roses in chains, the dead dahlias in your line. And then off to Cuba. Patrick,
Yes.
what do some of those images do for you?
I am focusing on his use of the word blood.
Yeah.
Because New York today, as I'm sure it was when he was writing, has this flow to it. You know, the streets are arteries, the side streets are veins. In a city that never sleeps, you know, blood never stops flowing. And he's captured that in that imagery. You know, as long as we're alive, our heart continues to pump, right? And the blood keeps moving. And New York, I feel that in New York. You know, when I get off a train in Grand Central, I just see a human flow that doesn't ever seem to stop. New York never stops.
Or sleeps.
Right.
What a great metaphor. All the arteries and capillaries and the rushing of the blood, and yet the blood is also assassination and killing and rivers of blood. What are you, a country guy or a city guy? Would you?
I'm a New England forest dweller.
Okay.
Yes, I can experience the crush of something like Manhattan for 24 hours at a time.
And enjoy it.
And enjoy it.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and feel that life force.
Getting off the train,
right.
seeing the
Getting
rush.
in that flow, and
I love
then leaving a day later to return back to the woods.
Wow.
I feel the same cliche, nice place to visit,
But,
but, you know, I'm happy in the woods.
Right.
well, that makes 3 of us. I'm so, these days, elderly, intimidated by the city, and yet I'm drawn to the museums, poetry readings, whatever cultural richness it has there, it's Mecca. But,
Indeed.
oh my, how daunting. You know, maybe in my 30s, that's the heyday. I loved it. So we are 3 country people. Have you ever been to Spain?
No, I've not been to Spain.
You?
I have not.
I am dying to go to Granada. That's the one place I would love to go. Mainly because I read so much in his bio about his happy life there. And of course, he was murdered at 36 by the thugs who were right-wing fanatics locally who hunted him down as his reputation grew during the Republic as a spokesman for the Republic. And as soon as, I don't know what the term is, phalangists, the right-wing repressive movement, which ended up in Generalissimo Franco, 36, you know, and they only put a monument up in 87 after Franco died. What a life. I think Cuba was a totally different experience for him. That's the transition. Okay, so he's in New York from August at Columbia, walking the streets. There he is on the bridge in Central Park, lonely man, recording his imagery in his poetry as he walked the streets, but also his commentary on city. And then off he goes to Cuba, which was certainly happy. And in contrast, what a great shot that is. This lonely solo figure in the fall in New York City with its beauty, but also the sadness he's probably feeling. Who do you have from Cuba,
Well,
Gemma?
I was in the library and in the children's section, and I found a book about a poet in Cuba very early on, Juan Francisco Manzano, and he was actually an enslaved person. He was enslaved by the plantation owners, and his parents were also enslaved, and he worked all his life, all his short life. First, he worked in a home where the woman who was she was in charge of it was her family. She was the mother of the family. She taught him poetry, and she taught him to read and write. And then later, he was sold to someone else who made him work in the fields, and he was not permitted to learn reading or writing, but he kept educating himself by kind of squirreling away different snippets of paper that he found. So I think it's interesting, and also an interesting contrast to one of the first poets that we had.
Oh, yeah.
So
way back.
Yeah, way back. Her name is.
Wow.
Yeah.
You caught me.
Okay, Phyllis Wheatley.
Ah! How can I forget Phyllis?
So she was one of the first poets that the very first time we did Poetry of Immigrants. But his experiences were different because he was not what they called a house slave for very long. And Phyllis Wheatley was treated more comfortably, although she was never became free until much later in her life, was never given her freedom.
What a good comparison, though, because the first African-American woman published poet in the United States bought right off the boat when she was 7.
So there was a poetry book about this man, but I'm going to read one of his poems. O thou dread scourge and terror of our race, while thy strong hand bows down the proudest head, filling the earth with cries in every place, and grief and wailing o'er the silent dead. Hear one poor Christian's humble prayer to thee, and speak in words that one may hear and live. I only beg thou wilt not ask of me this gift of life that God was pleased to give. While passion's spell is in my heart, nor yet while angry feelings rankle in my breast, nor while remembrance ever is beset with wrongs that men despair to see redressed. Oh, yet not while I feel this bosom rise with tender transports, when the partner dear of all my cares with bright and beaming eyes smiles in my face, and Eden's joys seem here. But let it be, when thou dost see me yield, give me whole heart and soul to God above, to him who gave me life, nay more, reveal the truths of eternal life and love. So he, unlike Phyllis, who was willing to celebrate the Creator and the Redeemer, he's saying, yes, the Creator and the Redeemer have given me life, and it's my life, and I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be in this situation. So he's had a realization a realization beyond that, and he continues to have in his poetry. He was also killed. He was beaten very severely because he was accused of being part of an uprising in Cuba. But as far as anyone can tell in history, he was set up because he read and wrote, and some of his writings did say, we shouldn't be an enslaved people, we should be free.
First protest poem.
Yeah.
Creativity is always a threat to authoritarianism.
Yeah.
Always.
So,
On that subject,
Yes.
read us a poem of resistance of your own, or protest, or
I brought one with me. You two heard it last Thursday. If you want me to read that one,
I'd love it.
I'm happy to. It's current, as in pertaining to the here and now, but it is. This poem is a plea to all of us, and it's called Alternative Facts.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, we've heard
Alternative Facts. It says, "This is everything I want to say to America, to a people in distress. Let this nation shine again, that bold voices may call out and reclaim all that is good, for a pioneering people who taught the world civilian power, who put human feet on the moon, for a broadly sweeping land, for all the decent creatures therein. Save the American soul. From demagogues a-twittering, save the American soul. Explode a peace bomb. Feed your neighbor. Hold the addict's hand. Look in the eyes of the homeless. Put the technology down. Embrace each other. Open this country's heart. Show the world once again how brightly America will shine."
Oh, the city on the hill. That's very eloquent.
America was a nation of ideals, and we've lost that.
Yeah. America's a concept, but Russia's an incarnation.
Yeah.
It's the man at the top who is the dictator who controls the life and the values and the thoughts. So, on protest, on resistance, what else can we talk about? That music? Any songs about?
there's
Oh yeah,
plenty of songs about
plenty of
protest.
songs.
Bottomless well, right
Didn't
there.
bring my Bob Dylan, but he's always been
Who
a
are some
go-to
of-
favorite.
Who are some of your favorite musicians, songwriters?
Well, right now I'm listening to the Prophets of Rage. This is loud, this is angry, but their point is resistance. Their message is one of rising up, rising against, particularly domination, ignorance, racism, fear, hatred. And they're very loud and angry about this.
Wow. Yeah, we find ourselves in the swim.
Yeah, you too, early you too. Sunday, Bloody Sunday.
Oh.
I can't believe the news today.
Oh yeah.
Close my eyes and make it go away. How long must we sing this song was the refrain.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that was, years ago. And they're still singing. I mean, they're bringing their old stuff back because it's relevant again.
Here we go again. Yeah.
Those who do not understand history are doomed to repeat it. Right?
Exactly. And Gemma gifted me a wonderful T-shirt today. Foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds, adored by little statesmen and philosophers and divines.
Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Ralph Waldo Emerson. What a great shot. Yeah, there he was. So why have we come so far down since these guys, Emerson, Thoreau, the 19th century poets who celebrated our most sacred values? Is it technology? Is it
Wealth.
wealth? Ah,
Wealth.
capitalist wealth.
Right.
Yeah,
An economic system built on greed.
truly.
Mm-hmm.
Can we hear some more of your poetry? What else did you bring?
I have another one here that is related. This one's brief.
Uh-huh.
It's titled Now. One needs allies to fight this tide, the ignorant crusade shouting, "We know what is right for you." Rise, fellow awakened. Join others in truth, because nothing changes if nothing changes. The change is you. This is my prayer for revolution. It's an inside job.
Will the revolution ever come again?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. It's going to get messy, but yes.
It's going to get messy. And will I be around? I don't know.
Possibly.
I'm 76. I'm hoping.
I feel hopeful when I see students who feel unsafe in schools saying enough.
Enough.
Right.
And I feel that it may come from them or from the realization that it comes from the ground up.
Wow. Yeah. That was so heartening to see that natural outpouring and resistance. So much to think about in terms of the future of the country. But long way from the 18th century. God's in his heaven and all's right with the world. Alexander Pope. Let's take a little break and change the tune. And we'll be back in about 3 minutes. Please watch the service announcements. They're quality made and they're wonderful. So we're going to take a break now. Timing is okay with you guys? Okay, thanks.
Adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. As it turns out, we have very similar personalities. And this cat makes me make art because he's always motivating me to take pictures of him, to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. It's just that simple. Well, he's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Looks like it's done.
Don't let salmonella get funky with your chicken. On average, 1 in 6 Americans will get a foodborne illness this year. You can't see these microbes, but they might be there. So learn the right temperature to cook each type of meat. Keep your family safe at foodsafety.gov.
We adopted Christopher when he was about 8 years old.
How are you doing today?
He's really an outstanding young man.
Presto.
Christopher just fits. He's part of our family.
So what are you going to do this weekend?
Goodwill has given him the opportunity to blossom.
We're very proud of him. We can't imagine our life without him.
Every day, the people in our community rally in support of United Way as we strive together to make a big impact to change lives in Middlesex County. From our main streets to our institutions, From our neighborhoods to our town halls and our classrooms, we're working with our partners to create a stronger community. It's an inspiring effort, and we invite you to join us. Volunteer, donate, live united.
It's a short ride from your neighborhood to your naturehood. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org.
Kids will spend 15 minutes watching online videos like this one.
Brushing for 2 minutes now can save your child from severe tooth pain later. 2 minutes, twice a day. They have the time.
April Fools! Welcome back to Poetry of Immigrants. My name is Sicknarf Yellowwark. That's Francis Crowley spelled backwards. It is National Poem in Your Pocket Day. So we're going to celebrate with some lighthearted verse and just have general mayhem for the next half hour. So I hope you at home are appreciating the contrast between the two half of the shows. Welcome back. We'd love to read you some happy poems. Gemma.
Got a little poem by that you gave me by Dorothy
good.
Parker called Bohemia. It's funny. It's a little cranky, but it's funny. Authors and actors and artists and such never know nothing and never know much. Sculptors and singers and those of their kidney tell their affairs from Seattle to Sydney. Playwrights and poets and such horses' necks start off from anywhere and end up at sex. Diarist critics and similar row never say nothing and never say no. People who do things exceed my endurance. God, for a man that solicits insurance.
Dorothy Parker.
Sarcastic.
You like her? Yeah. May I?
Sure.
There's a fun one over here. George Sand. She was great. Paramore. Frederick Chopin. Dorothy Parker again. George Sand. What time the gifted lady took away from paper, pen, and book, she spent in amorous dalliance? Dalliance. They do those things so well in France.
Interesting.
How about Penelope?
Happily.
Thank you.
Penelope.
Yeah, who was Penelope? Ulysses' wife, long-suffering, long-waiting wife. Back home in Ithaca, right?
I'm not remembering my Edith Hamilton right now.
Oh, okay, that's who she was.
Okay. In the pathway of the sun, in the footsteps of the breeze, where the world and sky are one, he shall ride the silver seas. He shall cut the glittering wave. I shall sit at home and rock, rise to heed a neighbor's knock, brew my tea and snip my thread, bleach the linen for my bed. They will call him brave. Interesting rhyme scheme.
Yeah, so light verse is delineated different from lyrical verse, which is music, the lyre. Light verse, everybody indulges in. Do you have another one?
Not a short one. If I can pick one through there, I might be able to find one. Let's see. Oh, I like this one. It's called The Facebook Sonnet. It's by the native poet Sherman Alexie. The Facebook Sonnet. Welcome to the endless high school reunion. Welcome to past friends and lovers, however kind or cruel. Let's undervalue and unmend the present. Why can't we pretend every stage of life is the same? Let's exhume, resume, and extend childhood. Let's play all the games that occupy the young. Let fame and shame intertwine. Let one's search for God become public domain. Let church.com become our church. Let's sign up, sign in, and confess here at the altar of our loneliness.
So it is spring. And the other side of spring is the sweet flowers that pop. The rainbow, William Wordsworth. My heart leaps up when I behold a rainbow in the sky. So was it when my life began, so is it now I am a man. So be it when I shall grow old, or let me die. The child is father of the man, and I could wish my days to be bound each to each in natural piety. Ah, and the most famous one of all, daffodils?
Daffodils.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not be but gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. For oft when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mood, they flashed upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils. I haven't read that one in years.
Yeah.
Really?
Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I just went back to high school.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The inward eye and the inner ear, Keats says, heard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter. The romantic. You're a great reader.
Thank you.
And let's do one that Gemma gave me about 10 shows ago, which is so fun, and it's for kids.
Okay.
Thanks.
John Ciardi?
Ciardi.
Why no one will pet the lion at the zoo. The morning that the world began, the lion growled a growl at man. And I suspect the lion might, if he'd been closer, have tried a bite. I think that's as it ought to be, but not as it was taught to me. I think the lion has a right to growl a growl and bite a bite. And if the lion bothered Adam, he should have growled right back at him. The way to treat a lion right is growl for growl and bite for bite. True, the lion is better fit for biting than for being bit. But if you look him in the eye, you'll find the lion's rather shy. He really wants someone to pet him. The trouble is, his teeth won't let him. He has a heart of gold beneath, but the lion just can't trust his teeth. That's good.
That's good.
That's really
Do you
good.
mind if I meld one with, it's part the zoo, it's part spring.
Oh, wonderful.
And it also echoes back to Lorca, who saw alligators and iguanas in New York City, which is so surreal.
That's
but
so
these
surreal.
these are actually real reptiles.
And this is your own.
This is my own. This
When
is
did
called,
you write it?
2009, I think, but I keep changing it. Spring unmasks inside the reptile house. Their blood is cold, yet here buds a passion to unmask, unveil, disrobe, reveal, shed outer layers in pulsing, throbbing contortions. Chameleon, Chinese monkey king, the Dene coyote trickster, eyes move in as many directions as his loyalties. He exfoliates every color he has known. He is white or black, the absence of color, the saturation of color, black and blanc and blank, the Persian's other side of the prism. He reflects all things to all people, but he guards his secrets beneath his jaunty gray hat. Rancid elegant vanity, the basilisk lizard, peels back coruscated spiny frills, fractaling minutely into smaller and smaller patterns of loving self-absorption. He courts his emerging reflection with intricate clockwork gestures, longs for his own voice to call his mechanical moves poetry. Brown viper-sized petite coquette tastes everything without an appetite, simply pours forward, flicking her dainty fork to abandon used-up derma like another doting admirer. If glass were a quicker liquid, her venom would sing giddy requiems in all her victims' veins. Half-baked in heat lamp regret, Gila, not a true monster, scrapes loose pock tegument of tacky, lurid, red, black, yellow macho. He reeks salival poison between smackdown wrestling matches with other so-called monsters, and dreams of fashioning a tenderly folded origami jacket for a crab with clacking pincers, whom he met long ago on a ship that sailed them here, where they were sorted forever by taxonomy, not desire. Surfacing through oily slicks scattered with her own discarded scoots, Map Turtle settles on a log to bask. New destinations emerge from her carapace, etched deeper than any journey she will ever be permitted. But why share these lines, and with whom? Her secret joy is encoded in the fantasies designed upon her plastron, and to reveal these, she waits one worthy. Glass lizard personifies the Spanish proverb of the blue-eyed boyfriend. If you leave him, he will shatter, or his tail will break off, or so he claims. But note that he gulps his beer with his pills and sheds his shards at the angle of maximum effect to inflict pain on the foot that finds them. Sloughing away great scabs of skin, heedless of smothering jealousy within, devoted to possess fanatically, Python embraces most emphatically, squeezing, asphyxiating euphoria with visions of mythic hyperborea, each coil carefully reticulated to allow no pleas for breath articulated. Ah, their blood is cold, but warming up. Their skin is new. Outside the Bronx Zoo Park, ozone, methane, and diesel waft a fetid brew of spring.
Oh.
So those are all the reptiles I saw at the reptile house. They reminded me of people I knew. And the map turtle is yours truly, but don't tell anybody. It's all in secret code. So, yeah.
That is so sweet for spring. But your voice has that nice ironic edge, always. The speaker of the poem is like preserving a distance and a detachment.
Well, you wouldn't want to get too close to some of those characters, not the poisonous ones.
But what a celebration of spring, too.
Yeah, they're all coming alive again, not just the birds and the flowers. You have to celebrate all life.
Wonderful job. I haven't heard that before. Yeah. How about this museum piece? Richard Wilbur.
Sure.
I think he passed away last year.
He did.
He did, yeah. So, in memoriam to Richard Wilbur.
Museum piece. The good gray guardians of art patrol the halls on spongy shoes, impartially protective, though, perhaps suspicious of Toulouse. Here dozes one against the wall, disposed upon a funeral chair. A Degas dancer pirouettes upon the parting of his hair. See how she spins, the grace is there, but strain as well is plain to see. Degas loved the two together, beauty joined to energy. Edgar Degas purchased once a fine El Greco, which he kept against the wall beside his bed. That one ends abruptly.
It does.
It does.
It does. Thank you. Music. Shelley. Music, when soft voices die, vibrates in the memory. Odors, when sweet violets sicken, live within the sense they quicken. Rose leaves, when the rose is dead, are heaped for the beloved's bed. And so thy thoughts, when thou art gone, love itself shall slumber on. So, any other poems you brought?
I think I have one other, but I'm not sure that it's thematically connected with where we are at.
We're in free fall.
We're in free fall.
We're in April.
We're in April.
April Fool's Month, anything goes.
Yes, we're in April Madness.
Okay.
Good, I'm glad you brought another one.
You want to hear the other one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely, thank you. New Year's Elemental Blast, written on New Year's Day. This broke-down engine needs fuel. It sputters in hunger and fury, causing a central tremor rolling over into weakness. These eyes hollow and dark, the visage of tired, gaunt youth, desperate to light the fire, full soul ignition to cast a burst of light into this shadowed forest, so that all creatures may know the human comes alive. Let there be light, let all luminosity loose upon the earth, many engines a chorus of life. I will do my part in full acceptance to get the lifeblood flowing again. A collective machine with holy hum, a symphony of life, a concerto ablaze.
Whoa.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Wow.
I had the flu. I had the flu for a week, and at the end of 7 days of brutal illness, that's what came out.
Funny thing about that, yeah.
Yeah, and my body was hurting.
Yeah.
And I wrote something to try and
Regenerate.
right, ignite the flame.
Which in many cultures, spring is the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
it is the regeneration that you were encouraging for yourself.
Oh, yeah. Happy spring, Gemma.
Happy spring.
And Patrick, way to go.
Tempus Burnham, as they call it. Right?
For me, it's Tempus Fugit. Oh, the seasons are going too fast for me. When did you start writing?
I started writing poetry when I was 15 years old.
And why?
And why? Because some girl broke up with me.
It's always
common tale.
Boy and
romantic
girl.
pain of a 15-year-old.
Oh, 15. Heart throbs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I put those poems in a drawer.
Did you? Okay.
But that is where it began, though.
How about you, Frank? When did you start writing?
Oh, I was telling Patrick, what an embarrassment. In the 8th grade, the teacher that I admired, loved, wanted her to be my mother even. She was Mrs. Davis, the most wonderful 8th grade teacher, and then she said, I want you to write a poem to the whole class. And I couldn't rhyme. Da-da-da-da, tomorrow, and I wrote, and you certainly will be sorrow. Poor Mrs. Davis, her star pupil was just a flunky. I couldn't rhyme. Oh, I wanted to slip it in and, please accept my little lame poem, but she caught me on it. And I've been rhyming ever since. Properly, yeah. Forms. Do you write in any formal poems like sonnets or recognized? No.
No. I mean, I'd love to get more practiced in the craft to be able to do that, but no.
How about you, Gemma?
I've written one sonnet. one villanelle,
There you go.
and one sestina. And sestina was the hardest, but the sestina is about shoe polishing, which is something I love to do, and it's kind of a lost art these days.
That's wonderful. Remember the puzzle?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Did you bring one?
No, I didn't bring one today.
I have just learned Ghazal, puzzle. You got to say it with an Arabic pronunciation. Originally, I thought it was Persian or Farsi, but I was way off. It is an Arabic form, which is fascinating to me because the last two shows we had two Palestinian Americans, and they weren't aware of the form either. I tried one huzzle, just, spraying. I wish I had brought it. Rain and how the ice melting became little lizards. Very trite image, but the rhyme scheme and the rhythm, the meter have to be very rigid. It's fascinating. So I still have that image of the ice melting into little rivulets which looked like lizards.
I could see that in the movement of the ice,
Yeah. So for the last few minutes, we're going to do something really crazy.
Okay.
Do that.
All right.
Just pick at
Pick
random.
one random?
Yeah.
Got it.
And that is from Best Love Poems of the World.
Okay. Invictus.
Whoa!
William Ernest Henley. Out of the night that covers me, black is the pit from pole to pole. I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
You are a sight reader of great talent. You can read like that, just off the...
Thank you.
That's fascinating.
I appreciate that. Thank
That's amazing.
Oh, hard act to follow.
Yeah, that's
The words are mine.
Your finger...
They're someone else's.
Yeah, it was wonderful. The finger found it.
Oh, I don't know.
Ooh.
Wordsworth. The world is too much with us.
Amen.
Late and soon, getting and spending, we lay waste our powers. Little we see in nature that is ours. We have given our hearts away, a sordid boon. The sea that bears her bosom to the moon, the winds that will be howling at all hours, and are upgathered now like sleeping flowers. For this, for everything, we are out of tune. It moves us not. Great God, I'd rather be a pagan suckled and a creed outworn. So might I, standing on this pleasant lea, have glimpses that would make me less forlorn, have sight of Proteus rising from the sea, or hear old Triton blow his wreathed horn.
Beautiful. Good choice. And we are ending with Wordsworth. Okay, last thoughts. How did this feel for you? Was this
Wonderful.
an easy kind of...
Sure. I will always have a conversation about poetry and literature.
Will you come back?
There are cameras, but...
There are cameras.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Anytime you want. Anytime.
That's very, very good.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thanks, buddy.
You're welcome.
It was a wonderful time. I loved the free fall. You know, I've got stuff in the car, but no, this was spontaneous. Thank you, Gemma.
You're welcome. Thank you,
I'm,
Rick.
I'm glad you got that poem in.
Oh, well,
that's
you know,
a beauty.
I was going to read it at PI, and then there were 16 people in the open mic, and I said, let's just
You
let
were
everybody
very
else have their
gracious
day. You know?
that, you know, you gave up your spot.
But I made it up today. Thank you, Frank.
Oh, my pleasure. Okay, we are wrapping up another wonderful springtime show. It's April 26th. Remember, carry a poem in your pocket. And we'll see you next month. Thanks again for watching. And we have a great crew here. Thanks, Max. Ken, camera work.
Thank you very much.
Oh. And Chris Morgan and Christine, wonderful team. They seem to be with us every time. And I think I'll retrieve this t-shirt. Okay.
Well, okay.
Oh,